and good morning, and welcome to the final episode of The Insider for the 2023 season. Really excited about today's episode, and today on the show, we are honored to have Adam Roberts, the Digital Product Manager at TrailWest Bank, joining us on this episode. A little bit of background. Let's start off with the bank. So TrailWest Bank is located out of Missoula, Montana. One of my favorite parts of the country. They currently service customers across western Montana with 17 locations and their growing digital presence, which we'll get into all of that. The bank currently operates with a little over $900 million in assets with over 172 employees. And the mission of the bank is to build loyal, long-term relationships based on trust, prosperity, and community. I love that. Talk about a definition of a community bank. I think that's it right there. But a few things about Adam. So Adam is a Montana native who definitely loves the outdoors. I'm sure we'll get into that as well. And he also carries with him an incredible background in customer service. Throughout his career, he's been an account manager, an operations manager, a call center supervisor, digital branch project manager, business analyst, and he currently oversees the digital product platforms for TrailWest Bank. I love a call out that Adam has listed in his profile on LinkedIn, and he doesn't know I was going to share this, but in his bio, he says that he leans into his farm kid work ethic on his job and everything that he does. And I can tell you definitively, I know that's a real thing. And so I love that. I love that statement in there as well. Today, we're going to have a great opportunity to hear from the man himself, and so I should probably just quit talking and hand it over to him so he can start to share his story with us. So, Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me on here. Adam Roberts in Missoula, Montana with TrailWest. I have a bit of probably a non-traditional path into banking. My mom actually has been a career banker and at one point was with a bank that was seized by the FDIC. So at that time in my life, I swore that I would never be involved with banks.
We may need to get into that story more at some point. I don't know if there's an NDA in place or not, but I might want to hear about that offline.
Yeah. I actually grew up in a very, very small farming community. I grew up working on farms. Actually came to Missoula for school for forestry and left that program early. Was a hunting guide, worked on some ranches, did some retail work. And then I was in agriculture as a crop advisor and account manager, and then decided to go back to school when I was at that job for computer science. And so I did that program remotely, worked in the furniture business for a while as operations manager, and then to a call center and banking, and worked in IT for a bit, kind of doing inside sales mostly and some project management, and then came back to TrailWest in this new role, and now am managing our digital branches and all the products and what that entails. So not necessarily a traditional path here, but I've got a lot of different random industry experience that I'm still able to pull from today.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of good stuff in there. My next question is, when are you going to release your book? Because there's a great story in there.
Oh yeah, I haven't started on that, but maybe I should start putting some things down together.
And all your free time, yeah, just put that in there. I love that. Yeah, we have a lot of shared passion for the outdoors, and when I was a kid, the first thing I ever wanted to do, when you were asked when you're in elementary school, what do you want to do when you grow up? I wanted to be a park ranger. I wanted to work for the National Park Service. I wanted to live in Yellowstone, and I was just enamored with that, partly because you got to drive a green Jeep all the time, so that was part of the reason why I liked that. But I realized that's really hard, and it did not end up being my career journey. So here we are. I could talk to you, and you've had a very colorful past, which helps explain really your unique perspectives on things. But dive in a little bit more to what that means at TrailWest when you use that term. Everything, I would say this means different things to different people, but the digital product platform that you guys are operating and your specific oversight of the digital branch. What does the digital branch mean at TrailWest?
We started introducing the digital branch really when we rolled out our ITM fleet. It was there a little bit previously. They alluded to that name at times, but that's when we really embraced it. Was when the ITMs were rolled out. Prior to the ITMs, that was in 2019. Prior to that, we didn't really have a call center. That was its own department, but we did have like web chat, and we just had a hodgepodge of different staff members that answered those web chats. And as online banking became more popular, we started having people who kind of specialized in being those experts, and it kind of naturally evolved into a call center. And when we rolled out ITMs, we started out with 4 ITMs. We did one just to try it out, see how it went in the lobby of our headquarters, get everyone exposed to it. Uh, it was embraced, and then we ordered 3 more and started running those, and just dove straight into it. Since that time, the digital branch has expanded quite a bit and touches a lot more areas, and we offer a lot more products and services to stay competitive with larger banks in our area.
I want to dive in a little bit further to part of that feedback and conversation there, which I appreciate you sharing. Really about just the strategy. You were talking about rolling out chat with different departments and different teams. Different team members were supporting those conversations. I'm assuming across different departments, and then also the ITMs, deploying those and growing that install base out. I'm just curious, how did things start for you, and how did the bank start out that strategy? Did you evolve it into a centralized team or some type of department that supported all of those channels? Just kind of help us to better understand a little bit about what that strategy initially was like, and then how it's evolved over the last couple of years, Adam.
Yeah, like I said, it started with web chat. Really, the phone calls were all coming to individual branches. But as online banking use increased and the rollout of the ITMs, it went through a natural evolution of becoming more and more centralized. There, became people who initially volunteered to help out with some of those things. Naturally, we had people who came out and did really well at those things and understood the products well. And so it naturally fell down to a few people who were doing a lot of those things. And when those ITMs started rolling out, it made sense to have a team that's dedicated to doing that. When you only have 4 when you're starting out, there really wasn't a lot of call volume, and so you needed to keep them occupied the rest of the time when calls aren't coming in, and things that they can drop relatively quickly and hop on and take those calls. Obviously, becomes a little bit of a juggle when you're in a contact center and you've got a chat phone call and an ITM call all coming in at the same time. It can be tough to juggle those because you got to answer them all relatively quickly. But we always put the focus on the ITMs. It's one thing when someone's sitting on a phone waiting for someone to pick up, but when someone's staring at a screen and just waiting for someone to pick up, not knowing if the technology works because it's new,
Yeah.
that became the priority. We did put a lot of emphasis on those. Our frontline staff, our executives, our board members were all really on board with pushing that and embracing it, and really getting our customers to use it, and even our employees too. And that's a big part of it is get your employees to touch it and play with it and get comfortable with it, because they're going to sell it to the customers. And that's really when once you start diving in like that and embrace it, we started getting more ITMs, and the efficiencies started showing themselves once we grew that fleet, because they're very expensive. It's a lot of upfront cost, but once we started expanding that fleet with that centralized team, that's when it really shines. And when I first started working with those, I think we were at somewhere around 8 machines. Today we're at 20 that are currently in operation. Within the next few weeks, we're going to have 2 more in operation. Wow. We've got another one pending that we've purchased and don't have an install date for. So we'll be at 23 here pretty shortly.
That's awesome. That a couple of things there that I want to get a little more knowledge around is first of all the strategy for the ITMs, and we'll just stay here for a minute. We have a lot of clients, and even people we're talking to that maybe aren't clients today, but that might be working with us in the future that are evaluating these technologies. And there's a lot of similarities if you're buying into innovation and the ability to provide better customer service. I think the ITMs are very complementary to what Invo does, and vice versa, right? So share with us a little detail there. If you're willing to share a little detail with us there, I think it'll be very helpful. But the strategy. So was this let's replace or go outside the bank to begin with? So, i.e., pneumatic tube replacement strategy, offsite strategy. Did you do in the lobby? Kind of share a little bit about what that thought process was as you started to roll these phases out.
Yeah, we've really focused as far as ITM placement. We've really focused on the drive-throughs
Mm-hmm.
as the primary placement. We have found that placing them in the lobbies when there is a teller line and an ITM in the same location, 9 times out of 10, customers are going to choose the teller line.
Yep.
And so, for having enabling them to embrace the technology, you kind of have to force that change on them a little bit, and don't give them that choice, because if you give them the choice, they're not going to use it.
Yep.
And part of those efficiencies, we're able to cover a wider area with fewer people.
Mm-hmm.
We started small. Now we have an ITM at least one ITM at every location.
Awesome.
Um, I think there's one branch that we don't have one, and it's because it's a rural area, and we have network constrictions that we can't make it work there.
Yeah.
But we were able to place an ITM in a small community that we don't have a traditional branch there. We previously had an ATM and a night drop box,
Okay.
and there was actually a period of time where we had to close that little space, and we couldn't use it. But with ITMs, we were able to bring an ITM to that location, and we can now provide more services to that community than we were able to before. And we'll have one branch with we're actually going to have one branch that's going to have 3 ITMs. And we'll probably talk about this a little more later, and how Invo is being incorporated in that particular branch. But that one is essentially being turned into a true digital branch, which can be a little bit confusing since we've been calling our contact center digital branch for a while, but now we've got a little bit of a new name placement for that particular area.
I think that's normal, though. The terminology evolves and changes by definition, right? As
Yeah.
things and strategies change and evolve as well. That's great. Did you guys do anything with your hours of availability to your customers when you deployed the ITMs? Did you expand your hours or add any days of service, or what did that look like?
Yeah, we did, and I think that was that's been a huge selling point for us. We operate our ITMs 7 to 7 Monday through Friday,
Mm-hmm.
9 to 5 on Saturdays, and 11 to 3 on Sundays. And of course,
Oh, nice.
we're able to process mobile deposits, and we're able to take phone calls and all of that stuff, respond to online banking questions during those same hours. So that's really been an integral part of how we've marketed this to customers, is to say, hey, you don't have to worry about cashing your check, between 9 and 5 when you're at work. We've got these extended hours, extended support, that you're able to come in and do those banking transactions.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Smart move. Immediately, you can find more efficiency and both the customer experience can be improved while you're finding operational efficiency at the same time. And I know you've heard me say that before, but it's hard to hit both of those targets simultaneously.
Yeah, and
I think
that's
it's
that's
great.
been a major part of our strategy overall, especially within my department. Is our two main focuses are our primary focus is customer experience and convenience. Everyone wants things faster, more immediate. We want to be able to give them that better experience, give them more convenient ways to bank, while still providing operational efficiencies for us. And really, what we're trying to do with those digital services is have a great experience, but we want the in-person experience and the digital experience to be the same. We want that's how we market ourselves in this area. We're a very relational bank.
Yeah.
We're very involved with our communities and our customers, and that's been at the root of the bank when we were founded, and that's our primary mission throughout. And so we don't want to lose any of that personal touch with our expanded digital services.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. You know what I kind of realized when you were giving me that feedback, which I appreciate, is I got so excited when you started talking about some of your strategies. We just jumped into the weeds. I'd even give you a chance to kind of go big picture with everything. So why don't we pull back a little bit, if we will, kind of that 30,000 foot view. I gave a very brief overview of who the bank is, where you guys are generally located. You highlighted that a little bit, but if you're willing to, maybe just kind of paint a picture for everyone that's here about the history of TrailWest Bank, kind of where the bank started, how the bank has evolved over the many years, how you would view the bank today, as you've, I think, seen. I would estimate significant evolution in delivery channel with technology in the last 5 years of that time period. But I think it would be really, honestly, and this may just be for me, but to hear that full story, where the bank has come from, kind of how you would evaluate where it's at today, and then that road path, the path that you're on right now with your technology and innovation investments. I think that would be a great story to tell.
Yeah, we were founded in 1982 by Alan Bradley. He was only 32 at the time. He had some previous banking experience, and he actually spoke with the president of that bank at that time, and there really wasn't a leadership or president wasn't an option for him at that time. That particular individual was going to pass it down to his son,
Hmm.
but he fully supported Alan in starting up his own bank, and even as a competing bank, excuse me.
Wow.
He started that branch, and there was just a couple employees. I think they had 4 employees when they first started out. And at that time in Montana, branch banking was not allowed, so you had to have a separate institution essentially for wherever you're at. And he actually was the first person, once they made that branch banking was allowed, he was the first person to get his application in and approved to do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so that's how they kind of got started. They planted some small banks in some of the outlying communities. We actually started in Lolo, which is a very small town
Mm-hmm.
just outside of Missoula, and for a long time they just kind of skirted around Missoula, and we're in those smaller communities, and that was always Alan's focus, is to be part of the heart of those communities and be directly involved in what they're doing. And it really wasn't until we had a branch that was technically in Missoula, but on the outskirts in 2004. But we
Okay.
really didn't get into the heart of Missoula until 2014.
Mm.
Uh, and our steerhead logo actually is from one of the original shareholders, the Holt family. They had heard of longhorns in Lolo, and that was, at that time, it was kind of a staple of that community. You drove through
Yeah.
Lolo and you saw the longhorn steers. And in fact, when they opened the first branch, they had a longhorn in the lobby greeting customers.
I'm sorry. are, are you serious?
Dead serious.
Oh
Yeah.
man. That's a
So
that's a great way, and I got my marketing team in the room. They're probably like, "This is a great idea.
yeah,
If we could get a live animal that represents the brand."
yeah. So yep, and I mean, go figure. In Montana, we had an actual
I
steer in the
know. I
lobby
was
of a
gonna.
bank.
Somebody probably like drove through it. Did I take a wrong turn and end up in Texas? There's longhorns in Montana.
Yeah. So we did. At that time, the branches were named after the communities that they were in.
Sure.
Bitterroot Valley Bank was the one in Lolo. We had Clark Fork Valley Bank in another one that was just outside of Missoula, and so on. And in 2015, we rebranded all the branches as TrailWest Bank to kind of unify all of them under one name.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So The I mean, the history of the bank. Alan's still involved with the bank. He helps out a lot, but doesn't work full time anymore. But his vision has really stuck with the leadership here, and it's always been community focused, and something that I think is unique about us, and what's really um, allowed us to do what we've done and move the way that we have is they're not afraid to question the traditions in banking, not afraid to challenge the status quo. I wouldn't say that we're the first to take on the brand new shiny technology, but we're usually one of the first ones in our market area to take that on. We're not afraid to try new things that make sense
Yeah.
if it's going to help our customers.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, that goes back to what I said was one of my first impressions whenever you and I spoke, and just of the bank as an observation from an outsider looking in was I felt like you guys were much further ahead than most in not even just in the markets that you're serving, but in the state and in that region for how you're delivering that. And I love that quote. Being community focused, I think makes a big difference in that what that means changes and evolves, right? Depending on what needs to be available. Is it an ITM? Was it the night drop at that location? Is it online services? Is it adding days? Is it adding hours? And it's a moving target, right? And I know you know that better than probably anyone at the bank. Like, how do we continue to remain focused on that? But would you say that those are some of the reasons why TrailWest has been able to remain so competitive and relevant in these markets? Because I got a chance to come and visit with you on site, and I always do a market analysis, and I'm like, there are a lot of financial partner opportunities between banks and credit unions that are all really trying to service this customer base in the same area. How do you think, is it because of that focus? How do you think Trail West has continued to not only just evolve but also flourish?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting personally because we really don't, at least compared to a lot of our peers, we don't do a lot of marketing. The vast majority of our customers are coming to us based on referrals,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's intentional. That's how we want to sell ourselves, and uh, that that's how we've retained customers, and that's how we get new ones. Is just having that good relationship and also our ability to pivot. Um, and we don't have to go up through a highly structured chain of command on some of these things. We can throw a committee together real quick and talk about maybe a new loan customer and we can get it done for them pretty quickly.
That makes a big difference. And I
Yep.
think that's the advantage of a community bank. I think the challenge is maintaining that type of service as you guys are approaching $1 billion in assets with this many locations. Is like you're still being able to accomplish that. I think speaks volumes to execute, like you said, execute on the vision that has been laid out since the bank was founded. I say that hats off to you guys in the leadership team. You're doing a great job with that. I think one of the things is probably for me impactful, maybe is the right word, but what makes you successful from an outsider's observation and as a partner, it's how I envision Invo as a partner to you, is the focus on customer service. How do you think you've been able to focus on being intentional and even defining what customer service means between your physical and digital channels and touch points at the bank?
I think honestly, I think it's mostly just the mindset of the people who are making those decisions, and especially the ones that are impactful to our customers. Um, Whenever we're looking at a new product or switching vendors or anything like that, the first thing that we're always asking ourselves when we're evaluating that is this something that's going to improve our customer experience? Is this something that is going to make their lives easier? And then the secondary questions is this going to help us internally to serve people better and make us more efficient? So I think just having that number one priority is how is this going to affect our customers and how is this going to affect their experience, I think makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And I think something that and I think you and I even talked about this, but is how do we have the experience be, if not identical, as close to identical as we can, if that customer drives up to an ITM in the community or walks into a branch somewhere else or opens their mobile banking app while they're on vacation, and how do those all feel like Trail West, right? I
Yeah.
think that's something that I felt from the get go you guys have really focused on. Is that intentional? Is that something you've really made sure that's a part of that vision strategy, or what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's honestly because of the culture that's been embedded here. It's really not something that we don't have to broadcast all the time internally. It's part of the culture here, and everyone knows and understands that, and that's why we've had a lot of employees who stick around for a really long time. And even for me, I worked for a corporation briefly when I was in college, and I hated it. And I've always had a focus of working with smaller companies ever
Mm-hmm.
since then. And I used to irritate my teachers in school all the time because I would always question things. I would always ask why, and they would just get tired of me, and uh, I really got to commend our leadership because I that part of me hasn't changed. I still question everything, and I'm like, why is this way? Why does it have to be this way? Is there a reason we're doing things this way? And they don't dismiss me. They embrace it, and they're patient with me, and they'll answer it. And if
Yeah.
something doesn't make sense, and I say, well, why don't we try doing this? And they're very receptive to that. Again, as long as it makes sense for the customer experience.
Man, I love that. I mean, challenging the status quo is the only way you're going to evolve anything, right? And I think that's the right approach no matter what. Is being able to, in fact, I'm trying to think of the moment that this happened, but I still remember early on showing, or maybe it was Hope that demoed something to you in the platform, and you, like, as soon as we get there, you're like, okay, that was a great job, but why does it do this way? I remember looking at Hope and being like, oh, this is going to be good. I want to hear you explain this. But it
Yeah,
was right off the bat, that was even your approach here. And of course, we're partnered with you now, so you were able to see the value, but you even help us to start thinking against things like that. And honestly, those are the partners that I want. Those are the relationships like this with you these are the customers that we want to have at Invo, because how else do we improve what we're doing, right? So if you're not challenging something, you will become stagnant, and usually stagnant means you will end up becoming irrelevant. And so I think that's great.
yeah. I imagine the support team has a love-hate relationship with me because I'm always pestering them about all kinds of stuff, and they're very patient with me. And sometimes I just don't know what I'm doing, and sometimes I've got good feedback to improve the platform. So it's kind of a fun relationship, and I'm sure they're tired of hearing from me at times.
Well, now that you bring that up, we need to actually schedule a call for you and I afterwards to talk about that.
Set some
But we don't need
boundaries.
we don't need to talk about it right now. I've heard nothing negative, so I don't. I think you're probably more worried in your mind than we actually are in
Yeah,
house. So yeah, yeah. There's a sign on the wall that has those customers. I'm just kidding. You're not.
yeah.
That sign doesn't exist. I'm making that up. So I'll ask you a question, and so this is you representing Adam and your opinion and your feedback, not necessarily the opinion of the bank. So I'm always curious just about thoughts, maybe even opinions and convictions on customer service in 2023. I've been in this industry for almost 16 years. I've seen a lot of things change. I'm married to someone who's been in this industry for almost 30 years, so I've got to watch it secondhand through her. And I just feel like the last 10 years has been like light speed and how things have changed. And I don't just mean regulation and lending practices and all of that. I'm talking about delivery channels and technology. You've talked about ITMs, but all that being put aside, what is your opinion? What is your take on really being a good partner to a customer as a financial institution today in 2023?
One of the things that struck me, one of the most notable things anyway, when I first started working for the bank was how much our hands were tied as
Mm,
far as what we could do, and why we were doing so many paper documents and handwritten tickets and things like that.
yeah.
And almost always the answer I got was because it's part of the regulations or it's
Yeah.
what the auditors told us to do. And I've really enjoyed seeing how quickly things are shifting, how the speed is kind of tough to keep up with at times. But
Yeah.
I think both from a operational efficiency standpoint and a customer experience standpoint, that this movement that's happening with the digital products and the technologies that we're seeing in banking, really happy to see uh, the speed at which it's being adopted to be able to service those customers. And I think back to when I was working in agriculture and working, from when the sun came up to when the sun went down. It's pretty much impossible to get any banking done between 9 and 5 when you're trying to do that.
Yep.
So that was, as a consumer, that was very frustrating for me. And now I'm able to see some of our ranchers who are across the state from us. They're able to submit their check from the bull sale that they're at through their mobile app
Yeah.
without having to come into a branch, without having to worry about if the bank's open or not. They can get those things done without inconveniencing their life, and they can continue on doing the things that they need to do. So from that aspect, I'm really enjoying where the technology is going. Um, as far as I guess my perspective on customer service and everything like that is, I just go off the golden rule. How do I want to be treated? And it really, as a customer, I've been with many different banks over the years, and it really would just drive me nuts when people just kind of give you the attitude of, it's not my problem, that's your problem. And, this is the way it is, and you can deal with it or you can go someplace else. And that always really bugged me. And so that's something that, culturally there's the attitude is not present here at all, which I love.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the lens that I'm looking at things, whether, regardless of what industry I'm in. Treat customers how you want to be treated, make it happen for them, get it done, and make their lives easier.
Yeah, we share a very similar value set, Adam, and that's something that I even talk about here within the company at Invo. And I hate to say, but it's kind of like that common sense rule, which tends to be forgotten by a lot of people in the business world, which is shocking to me. But we continuously get feedback internally of, oh, well, you guys actually picked up the phone when we called, and you're the first vendor to do that this year. Or when you email, you email us back in the same day, and I'm like, does this not happen everywhere? I don't know. This is how it's supposed to be. Like, this is the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I hear you saying too, which is, let's meet the customers where they're at in a way that helps to support their lifestyle, and not tell them, well, this is the way our bank operates, so you have to conform to us. Like, that's not how it works anymore, because guess what? There's a whole row of financial institutions physically available and digitally available that are willing to take care of them and take their business if you guys won't do it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So talk a little bit about strategies at the bank when you think about how you guys have implemented these things, and you've touched on some of them, maybe not all of them, to get us to 2023, and then that vision, look forward to strategies to continue to engage your customers. As much as you're willing to share in transparency, what have been those milestones over the last 5 or 10 years to get there? What technologies have you guys deployed to respond to the customer? And then maybe what you're in the middle of now. And then, as you said, you're all in ITMs. You got 2 getting ready to go out, another one on the pipe. What else? What else are we looking at there? What are you guys looking at to continue to be on the front end of customer service?
Well, just offering services to stay competitive with other banks, whether they're national banks or other local banks. Offering a good online experience, offering features and services like mobile deposit, ATM deposit. We have remote scanners that we lease out to some commercial customers to help them get some of those things submitted in. We've tried a lot of different things, different technologies. With COVID, that pushed a lot of things. We were fortunate in having the ITMs already present when that came around.
Yeah.
through COVID, we pushed up like appointment scheduling because of the pandemic and some of the things that was making difficult for both us and customers. We did things like online account opening, dipping our toe into that experience, which we're constantly looking at and looking to improve. We had we actually, this is something I haven't heard of a lot of other banks doing, that we ended up adopting a couple of years ago. Is we did an internal ticketing system for our contact center,
Okay.
and that has proven itself over and over again. It's become extremely efficient for us, and it provides a really great tool to hold things accountable, and also have a really great audit trail. When we need to go back and we have an audit, we have everything in there. What was the request? What staff member was responsible for the request? Did they conclude it? How was it resolved? All that kind of stuff. So that's something that we took on, and actually we've had other departments, once they saw how successful it was for us, started jumping on that as well. So those are some things that we've kind of been doing the last couple of years. And currently, we have a branch that's kind of been there's a lot of factors that play, but we've had one branch in particular that's kind of been chronically understaffed.
Okay.
And we've tried to make it work, and we've tried to have people out there, and for various reasons, it's just always short staffed. We've had to modify drive up hours or lobby hours, and it was a really tough juggle. And so we essentially took our ITM, the whole strategy there, where we have these machines at multiple locations and a central team answering those, and we saw how efficient that could be.
Yeah.
And we basically decided to remodel that branch and apply the same logic as ITMs to our new accounts and our lending relationships as well. And that's where that Invo relationship really got started, and we're working through that right now. We're getting that branch open and trying that out, so that customers can walk into a branch, and if they need a cash transaction, they've got an ITM there. If they need to open an account or modify account, or they need to start a loan, then they can walk in and they can utilize this technology to have that same face-to-face. It's virtual, but it's still face-to-face, and it's a relational interaction that they can have with us, so that we can have a wider footprint with the same amount of staff. And it's in a small community, a really small town, and closing down the branch in that community was never on the table.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was never an option for us. We wanted to keep that open for the community, and this technology enabled us to do that. We can stay open. We can service it with a smaller staff, and we can still give those customers the same experience that they expect from us.
That's great. So let's stay there for just a second. So it's an existing branch now? Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a traditional branch. I believe that one was opened in the 90s.
Okay.
And we're just wrapping up construction right now, reopening here very soon. And we've kind of whittled down the space. We put up some walls, and so the customer area is smaller than it used to be, but it's a lot more efficiently designed, and we were able to still, obviously we've got all that other space in the branch, and we're utilizing that for, as I said, we couldn't get a lot of people to work out at that particular branch, but we now have the space where we can house more back office operational employees. As we expand, we'll have that room to put people there.
Yeah, you mean you did need a branch that was still the same size as the all branches in the 90s, like 4 or 5 times too big?
Well, and that's something else with us. We've got some banks that have some really, really big, really beautiful buildings that take up a really large footprint. And that's really not our strategy. That's not where we're investing our money. We have, economical branches that make sense. to serve our customers, and that's the same way with this branch. So even though it is one of our bigger branches from that perspective, comparatively, it's pretty small.
Yeah. You know, this is an aside, but you'll probably find it amusing, or maybe not. But there was a client I used to work with out in the state of Kansas, and there was a board. I call it the story of a board that was divided. So they were very profitable. The same family had held it for multiple generations, and they were in a growth mode like 10 years ago. And what they wanted to do was plant 3 to 5 branches every year in these small communities across the state of Kansas, and every branch had to be a minimum of 5,000 square feet because they wanted to put an impressive building and structure to show their investment in the community. Every single place they went. So it didn't matter if it was a community of 10,000 people or a community of 1,000 people. They were going in with that strategy. What you know what it led to was some of those areas they had 3 employees in that massive building, and then others, they were fully staffed and all the offices were full. But it was that same strategy. I'm like, that is crazy. But there was a time, and it was coming out of those 90s that you had to have I call it the monolith in every location. It has to be a monolith, right? So let's go back to your digital branch, which is the opposite of what I just described. So when you walk in there, what is it going to be like? Let's say that I walk in the front door. What does that experience look like for me? How many staff are you planning? You said a reduced staff. Is there a head count or a number count that you guys are kind of targeting there, or that you have at least conceptually going into this that's going to look like? And if I am coming in and my journey is cash and retail, or it's account related or something more heavy that maybe they're using the Invo platform, what does that look and feel like?
Yeah, so right now we've got not a lot of staff out there. We're actually going to have one person who is always on site.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there for a time period while we're transitioning, but at this moment in time, we're looking at operating that branch with one person.
Awesome.
And so if you walk in the door, then we'll say I'm the one out there. I'm going to walk up to you. I'll have an iPad in my hand, and I'm going to say, "Hey, Jake, great to see you. What can we help you with today?" You say, "Oh, I just want to cash a check." Great. We've got this ITM over here. Let me show you how it works. And we get you started, touch the screen, you get greeted by someone. And we have a wonderful staff here that they're well-versed in how these operate, and they can, virtually hold someone's hand and walk them through that whole process of how to interact with the ITM and make that work. They make it very easy for our customers. Conversely, if you come in and you say, "Hey, I'm new to the area, want to open an account with you guys," I'm just going to jot down some information in the iPad, get you seated in our queue, and then walk you over to our Invo station, get you sat down. Customer service representative is going to be hopping on that call as you're sitting down, and I'll do the kind of the handoff to that employee, and let you interact with them. And I think probably most people who are watching are fairly familiar with with that Invo station experience. If not, go to Invo's website. They've got a really great video that highlights that experience. But we've got that virtual face-to-face. I've got signature pads, document camera, so we can do everything that needs to be done right there virtually, and the employees can just walk the customer through it with very little effort on the customer side to make that happen.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. What a great, and I say, we talk about this all the time to someone who doesn't maybe have a really good deployment strategy, and it's to give the advice that you just shared with everyone here, which is that assisted service, I think, is key for adoption and onboarding out of the gate, especially in a community that maybe isn't familiar with technology. And that's not a knock on a community. It's just like, hey, if you've never used an interactive teller machine before, it can be intimidating. And in an interaction through technology like an Invo kiosk, it can be equally intimidating just if you've never done it before. Not because it's hard to use, but it's like the first time you do anything. It's like when you grab any type of FaceTime or video call, like, are they really going to be there when I hit call? That kind of a thing, that trepidation. So I love the assisted service process. I love the onboarding. I love that. We'll call it hand-holding until the customer's comfortable, right? I think that's going to lead to significant success and adoption. I can't wait to see kind of what the outcomes are, a few months down the road with that.
We actually just had a customer who came by the other day at that branch, and they were asking about, what's happening at the branch, when's it going to be, because we've got the lobby closed while we're finishing up the remodel, and they had a lot of questions, and I said, well, why don't you come on in and I'll show you what's going on, and I've got we still got to do some painting, so our stations aren't totally set up, but I've got one of our Invo stations kind of set up in basically a demo environment in one of the side offices. And I said, why don't you come in and I'll show you how this works. And it was someone who they said they hate technology, and they were disappointed in what was happening with the branch. And I told them this is how we're going to keep stay in this community. And I sat them down and called in, and someone answered the call, and we just showed them how it could work. And they were like, well, that's actually kind of neat. I think I like that. So
Yeah.
I think just keeping an open mind and showing them that is going to make a world of difference.
I picture this, and I pictured this being you in that situation. Like, hey, let me help you. And on the inside, you're like, challenge accepted. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a lot of the ornery customers sent my way, and I think because I have honestly, people in the ag communities will know this. Farmers can be especially tough to deal with, and I've got a lot of experience with them, and that's kind of how I look at all customer service. If I can deal with some of those ornery farmers, then this will be a walk in the park.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to straight shoot a farmer, right? There's no, you don't need to flower anything. They've got things to do, and what they're doing there with you is the least important thing of that day, typically. So
Yeah.
that's very true.
When we did actually, I want to share this with you, Jake. I haven't shared it with you yet. Is we actually found a really good new use case for the stations.
Okay.
We've actually got a station set up at our headquarters right now, and it's primarily used at the moment. It's been used as a training tool and to show like some of our executives how it works and to walk them through that process. But we did show the the branch manager and the teller supervisor how it's going to work, and walked her through it, and she was super excited about it. And a way that we've started utilizing it already is they've had customers who come in and they're having trouble with the mobile app, for example, and maybe they got locked out or whatever it might be. We actually have been able to use the document cameras, and they start a call, and they get we put them into we have a digital support queue available through Invo, and obviously goes to our contact center. And they came in and said what the problem was. We had them put their phone under the document camera, and then that way the operator could see exactly what's happening on their app, and then we're able to walk them through, troubleshoot whatever the issue was. And it was a really simple issue. It was just a miscommunication more than anything, of getting wires crossed, and we got them up and out of there in just a couple of minutes.
That is the very first use case of that I have ever heard. That is super creative.
Yeah, so that one kind of fell into our laps, but we were kind of excited when we discovered it. So now we've got a whole nother set of tools that we can use to help people troubleshoot.
That's incredible. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to share that story for sure. I'm gonna have to share that story. Let's talk about when you initially decided that Invo was the right direction for what you're doing at the bank. So this is going to the root of kind of our relationship. And, we talked a lot on the front end about your strategy. You already had strategies aligned, and it was, who's the right fit, what's the right fit, the right solution, the right partner. And I believe all those things are factors. But, we're still on the very front end of a business relationship. You guys are fully deployed. You're in deployment phase, you're in adoption phase, and this is for me is the most exciting time. But I love it because we're so close enough to the front end, it's easy to remember all those things. So share a little bit about what it was like to kind of evaluate, is Invo the right partner? Why did you decide to partner with us? And even share, because we haven't even talked about this, like what exactly, obviously talk about in-branch and kiosk, what are you doing today and planning to use within our platform? That's always good for those that are still kind of evaluating, is this the right choice or not?
Yeah, so we are... when we were evaluating, we basically we were coming up on our contract with our other vendor that we were using for web chats and some other contact center services. And to be perfectly honest, they had a really good product, but it was very much focused on the contact center, and we did like it from that perspective. But with this branch that we were trying to overhaul and figure out how we're going to make it work, it kind of turned into trying to fit a square peg into a round hole with trying to utilize that product to fulfill the needs that we were trying to meet there with that branch. And it just we kept trying to make it work and trying new things, and it just wasn't smooth, and it wasn't the best customer experience that we were wanting to have. And so we started looking at alternate options, and we'd actually seen a totally different vendor have a product that was similar to Invo's, and we liked that concept. And another partner of ours actually recommended Invo, and that was when that conversation started. And it was just kind of one of those experiences where almost immediately we knew it was going to be the right fit. Where you guys had taken a different start, where you guys really got started in branch video banking and then have expanded from there, and where that was kind of the original focus of the product, and that was the part that we were trying to focus on improving.
Right.
So where Invo met those requirements of ours and those expectations for having those some of those contact center tools available, so we could check that off the list. But now we also had this other solution that was going to enable us to, because a lot of the technologies could get the job done, but were they allowing us to maintain that personal relationship and that high touch customer experience that we have to have here? And Invo's product was able to match that experience better than the other ones that we looked at. So that was really how that happened. And like I said, part of it's probably me, because like I told you, I'm not big on corporations, whether I'm working for them or partnering with them. You just turn into a number. And that was another thing that for me was really important, is to be able to, call up Invo and somebody answers the phone, and I'm not just, talking to a recorded message. I actually get to interact with you guys. You guys listen to my feedback. So that was another piece that was really important to me, especially.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate that. I think that affirms a lot of strategic decisions we make just when it comes to customer care. And it's like I shared earlier, you and I are aligned on this. Like it's the way it's supposed to be done. And yeah, the joke should be it's really not that hard. So why doesn't everybody do it? But that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that being a difference that TrailWest has in your market and a difference that Invo has in our market to provide that difference maker. You talked a lot about in branch. What's next on the strategy roadmap? Are you guys continuing to look at evolving your online, your mobile platforms, enhancing those? Kind of what does it look like as you turn the corner and start to look to that next thing?
We're trying to improve in a lot of areas. We're trying to offer more services. There's some other projects I'm involved in, whether it's internal infrastructure stuff to make us more efficient uh, and be more available for customers, to offering the products that customers are asking for, better credit card products, things like that. Um, and uh, and like with Invo specifically, we're kind of dipping our toe in the water here with how this is going to work, making sure that we, uh, once we get going with this, we really understand how to use it well. And then where we expand from there, we've got lots of options, and we're keeping our minds open on this. Is we I envision most likely having an Invo station at every branch, if nothing else, than for a failover when things get busy, and that way customers don't have to sit there waiting in the lobby.
Yeah.
But they have another option available. Um, it also opens the door to being able to expand our market area without having to have that huge investment of a traditional branch with full staff. If we can deploy an ITM and an Invo station in a location with a small footprint, our overhead is going to be lower, and we can service our customers in another area in a way that we weren't able to before.
Yeah, I love that. That's absolutely right. How are you guys measuring? And I guess my first question is: are you measuring success by factors or outcomes? And for instance, is it about reducing wait times in the lobby or in the drive? Is it cross sales and trying to generate things through these new channels or different channels? Is it staffing and efficiency from staffing? Is it all of those things? And if it is, kind of how are you measuring or capturing that information to see if these different strategies? I mean, I'm lumping everything into that Invo, ITMs, and all that. How are you measuring the success and outcomes on that?
Yeah. So customer feedback is always going to be our number one factor in how we measure that
Sure.
success. And it's usually just having a conversation with people and asking those questions. Even if someone calls in and has an issue with a mobile deposit, we'll troubleshoot whatever issue they might be experiencing, whether it's user error or a platform error. And then, we'll just ask the question, how's it been working for you? Has it given you this trouble before? And just have, pretty honest conversations with people about what they think. And that's where we get the best feedback on how to proceed from there. And then I like to nerd out on numbers and data. I've got more spreadsheets than I can count on different things that I measure, and there's so much data out there and available to us, and you can interpret it 1,000 different ways. So that's some of the trouble, is making sure you get the data and that you are reading it in a way that's actually meaningful and useful. And we mostly look at things like volume and wait times are probably the two things that I look at the most often,
Sure.
especially for these services that we're offering where a customer is sitting there waiting for us. So,
Yeah.
The web chats or the video calls through the website, through Invo, the ITM calls, how long are people sitting there waiting before their calls answered, phone calls. I'm constantly pulling data and putting it together and analyzing it to see how are we doing from an efficiency standpoint, and then and then measuring that side by side with the customer feedback, and just looking for holes. I just look for inconsistencies, and this might be a problem area, and then we dive into that and identify what's the root cause, and then make a game plan from there on how we're going to improve that.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. Asking the question. I mean, it seems like such a simple thing, but how do you know how it's being received? How do you know how your customers are really feeling when you do something different, or like you used your language earlier, pivoting to this or that? If you're not asking the questions, do you really know? Like, how is that affecting the customers, the outcome there? There's things you can measure through the tech, and I love that about that technology, though, is you can pull how long a wait time is, or if you need to put somebody on hold, you know how long that is, so you can feed that into that in one of your countless spreadsheet tabs. But all those data points are valuable, and analyzing it is the key, and so I love that, and I'm confident you're going to continue to see you guys hitting the metrics across the board. It's hard to believe we're actually about to run out of time, just because I would love to keep you here for the rest of the day, but you have real business to do and real work to get done besides sitting here talking to me. So one of the things that I always like to ask is, do you have any other stories, experiences that you've seen with your customers across the board in any new channel that you deployed in with Invo, of course, is what I would like to hear, or otherwise, that would be illuminating for someone to hear, or even just something fun? We've heard some ornery ones, so I don't know if you had anything you'd like to share there.
I think it's just sharing experiences. My biggest thing is keeping that. I think keeping that open dialogue with customers. Don't be afraid to branch out to where you're uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I just had a conversation the other day with an employee who has a tendency to play it safe, and myself and another supervisor were talking to them and said, look, I would rather see you get outside your comfort zone and fail than stay in your comfort zone and be perfect all the time.
No,
And I think that is where, and just speaking to people who may be watching this, is don't be afraid to step outside of what's normal, what's traditional. Take a calculated chance and try to see what works, and be ready to pivot, be adaptable, and try to find what's going to work for you and your customers.
No, that's good. That's good. I had another question. I'm not even going to ask it now because that's the perfect place to stop. Yeah, I'd say you ended with solid gold. Adam, I appreciate your time so much. I've really enjoyed just the relationship that we've developed, as well as the opportunity to serve your customers through the bank. I am so excited to hear about the future as you guys continue to innovate and do new and unique things. I would encourage all of our insiders to go follow Adam on LinkedIn. Also, you can go check out TrailWest's website. Great website. You can find out more information about the bank there. Adam, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure having you. And I hope you have a great afternoon. And insiders, we'll see you next time.